horse drifted alarmingly in the betting, was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday sermon on this Sabbath. Just two of us today, just me and Jonas Lang, as Chris Lorne Malver has something on this week, which is a shame, but we're going to make a good fist of this show, because normally you're expecting a ranty, angry show, and that might disappoint some of you, but tonight we're going to go a little bit fun, because me and John are sort of fed up at slagging everybody off. In fact, someone even said on Twitter earlier this week, who are the bastards going to slag off tonight? Which I thought, yeah, are we being a bit ranty? Maybe. I don't know. What do you think, John? Are we being too ranty, or it's all justified though, isn't it?
Well, I'd like to think most of it isn't justified. It would be quite good for the ego, but yeah, I think we deserve a wake up from giving everybody a coating, don't you?
I think so. And what better way to do it? For you ranties, if you want to rant this week, myself, Ed Grimshaw and Carm Berry will be doing a rant on all things affordability, etc., and explaining why we're in the situation we're in, telling it like it is, in absolutely no sit-on-the-fence stuff. That'll be out later in the week. Stand by for that. But let's get on to fun things now. And John, I wanted to touch on the past, really, because it's not much fun living now, is it?
It makes the shit out the alternative.
We don't want to be pushing daisies, but what I'm trying to say is that the racing game is, I think it's an absolute shell of what it used to be. Just everything about it now. Why do you think that is? Is it like all the stars are lining to make it like that?
It's a factor. It's soulless now. You spend 1,000 times more time on your own than you did back in the day, shall we say. Invariably, we're in some sort of company, be it at the track, the betting shop, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, with more or less everything being at your fingertips online, the need to go out's gone, hasn't it? And if you wanted, you could stay put and never say a soul. We are social animals, aren't we? And you tend to miss it.
I think that's it. I mean, since the advent of online, I won't say glitz and glamour. The game's never had that glitz and glamour, but I kind of reminisced this morning of like going around the bookies to get all the money on in the morning. And I can remember some of the decor in the shops back in the sort of mid to late 90s when they were trying really hard and they were refurbishing the shops. And there were like some amazing seating areas. You'd have like coffee machines, like all facilities like for punters. It was just laid out as a punter's dream.
It was a big treat in them days as well, like coffee at your fingertips, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When they first brought them in.
Yeah.
Wow, I get a coffee.
Yeah. So I can remember back in the day, if I got one to back, I'd go around like Fitzallen Square in Sheffield, where there used to be 4 bookmakers: Ladbrokes, Corals, Ills, and I forget the other one now. It might be Stanley's. I think it was Stanley's. All 4 within like literally 200 yards, which was handy because you just go around each one of them, talk to the manager who knew you. He'd lay you a reasonable stake without being. Obviously, he's not going to lay you the lot. That's why you had to do all 4. But you'd have a good conversation with them. Oh, he said to you, "Why do you fancy that today?" You wouldn't get that now, would you?
No, absolutely not.
And he's why are you backing this? And you give him the reasons, 1, 2, 3, and he'd probably have a bit on for himself after that. So you'd do all 4, and then you'd go to the best one that had got the best seating area with the best coffee, and sit in there and probably read the Racing Rag or the Sporting Life. And that was bliss. That was like, what a morning to spend your day. I'd probably get the bus then back home. I could drive into town, but with parking, you may as well get the bus in. And the bus, I was on the bus route back in my younger days, so that sort of suited. And that was my mornings back then. And you chat to some of the regulars in there, and it was just a social hub, if you like, from degenerates to smart people to just normal folk wanting to have bets and go about the daily life betting on horse racing. And like you say now, and it's sad how we all sitting as hovels and we're looking at a screen with lots of windows open, be it Timeform, Racing Purse, whatever you've got open, Pornhub, and like you just sat there betting with a digital balance, and it's kind of, I think that's the bit I miss. I miss the old days like that.
It's awful, really, because you are not getting any contact with people, and you know, I mean, you can see where some people just totally lose the social skills.
Well, there's that and mental health, isn't there? I mean, like people's mental health, you can't be just sat in all the time. You have to get out there in the real world, and that's what racing used to provide. Because in the old days before online, you did the shops, and then maybe you'd even do the track as well. If there were a local meeting like your local at Redcar, and you'd be thinking, right, you know, this is still a backable price. I'm off to Lurkle. I'm going to have some Whitbucks as well, cash. And it's such a sad time now for racing, what with cashless race courses and everything else. And this was the thing I just wanted to reminisce on this show and discuss the happy times, which sort of brings me on, John. John, you run a bookmakers, didn't you, in your younger days?
Yeah, me and my business partner, Tommy. Yeah, yeah.
And some of the characters in there, like honestly, there's so many of them. I mean, just to set the sort of mood off here, there was a guy here I've pinched from the Betfair forum from 2006. They did a punters thread, John, not a typical racing punters thread, what they like. And apparently some of these are actual characters, which I'll list now. So there's one called the Firestarter. Apparently there used to be a guy in Edinburgh who basically went berserk when he lost. Yeah. Berserk so much that he used to light the Racing Post and the papers on the wall.
I've seen that done, actually, yeah.
He was banned from every Hills bookmaker in Scotland. Set it afire. Just light it up with his lighter. It's a gulping smoke. There's so many characters. Is there any sort of characters that spring to mind for you that like?
We had all sorts coming in our places, you know. I mean, the shop at Lingdale, obviously, there were ravely obsessives. We paid 340 quid for that shop. I'll tell you how we came about having the shop. Harry Bruff was the bookmaker at Lingdale, and he was one of the biggest moaning bastards you'd ever meet. And for some reason, I forget why, I was in the Lingdale Tavern, and Harry Bruff came in, the usual thing, like smacked ass. I said, "Hello, Harry, how are you?" You know, I said, bloody ravely and all this, because it was when she was having winners. And he said, if I could get rid, I would. He said, I'd give it to her. So I said, well, look, Harry, I said, I don't know what I've got in my ass pocket. I said, it might be 100 quid, it might be £1,000. I said, I have no idea. I said, whatever I've got in my ass pocket, I said, I'll keep it. I said, give me the keys. And we shook hands on it. I went in my ass pocket, there was 340 quid. And he snapped my hand off, which I suppose I should have paid wedding really. Anyway, we took this shop on, and the first decision we made was to give all Raveley staff credit. It took about 2 months before we had them absolutely by the conkers. I knew if Mary Raveley had had a shit before a breakfast before Mary Raveley knew. So everything that was going on at Ground Hill Farm, we knew about it in advance. It was probably at the time the best 340 quid I could have spent. I mean, none of the lads were in a position to tip up because, as you know, tips from stable lads are the worst things you can get. So we knew that, you know. But I mean, all we wanted to know was when the horses were healthy, when they were working all right. We did the rest.
Was that in the days of Malotti?
Malotti, Sweet Mignonette, Programme to Win, Cab on Target, Well, What Do You Think? Horses like that, you know. I mean, what she had an absolute knack for as well. Anything that came from a shit trainer that they paid $2 or $3 for. Her modus operandi was easy. She'd have 6 to 8 weeks with them and they'd go in first time up for her. And honest to God, it was money factory stuff.
Why was Mary Reevely so good, John, do you think?
I don't know, I mean, she was always very good on the pony racing thing, you know. Very good judge of a pony when it was right and healthy. And I think she just carried that stock woman's perspective through to racing. When her horses were healthy, when she could really kick on with them. And I mean, they worked them fairly hard up there. It wasn't just soft canters up hills, conditioning work all the time. They made the fuckers work, But despite the fact that a lot of them were low-grade horses, she really used to cram the work into them when they were in good order. And I think that's somewhat what worked for her.
Yeah, she were always good, sort of off a break, weren't she? You knew if she sort of like give one a break, and you knew it'd be fit. You didn't really have to wait because they were never going to, like you said, never going second time up. It were always
never needed a run ever.
Always on the reappearance.
Yeah. They were a good outfit, I mean, they had some good staff up there as well, good work riders. They had a lad called Shane Cox from Wales. He would have made a jockey, that lad. He just, the weight beating. He was a cracking rider.
Right, so we've gone to like punter characteristics that it shot. I mean, you had lots of communities back then. You got the Chinese community, the Greek, the cab drivers, the Caribbeans. It was like literally this is what it was like in Sheffield. You got an absolutely full weight from different communities, and hilarious is probably an understatement, really. This is why I've said on previous shows I've always wanted the younger end of punters to have seen all this because how funny it was. There's a story. So from this thread, I'll kick some of these stories off now. This was about a Chinese fella called Peter who worked his bollocks off in a Chinese restaurant and dishwasher, all that. Anyway, Peter gets a £250,000 inheritance from a wealthy Hong Kong relative, right? Mm. So Peter then decides to fuck off to Hong Kong, right? So he fucks off for 3 years, and then this fella that obviously claimed to know him asked about him. So, he's fucked off to Hong Kong. He's took inheritance and he's living it up out there. All right, fair enough. 3 years later, Peter's back washing dishes, right, in this same Chinese restaurant, right? So he says to Peter, what's happened with this Peter? What's he doing back in restaurant washing dishes? He says, he's been out on Hong Kong racing and done it in. Like, I'd life a Riley, but done it all in. And he says, well, that's terrible. Flown all his fortune. And we're going back into probably 80s, 90s. So when 250 were probably worth about $1 million now. Is he sick? Is he like sick at doing it in and everything? I'd be that devastated. He said. So this fella says, no, he's not sick. No. He says, like, how can you be not sick? He says, like he's learned the teachings of Confucius, and he says, well, what does that do? He says, well, it teaches that you've still got to be optimistic and misfortunes happen, and stupidity of the past is to be ignored. And he says, well, I really don't get this. And he says, yeah, but you're English. and I think just incredible. Like the Chinese, carry on with the Chinese, John. They're very superstitious, the Chinese, and very sort of like they like lucky things and stuff like that. There's a story here that someone said here. Last year, I used to go into a bookies with some mates from work in Leicester Square. Yeah, my mates were atrocious punters, doing bags, roulette, you name it, they lost on it. Yeah. Anyway, it's on the edge of the Chinatown, and the same Chinese faces use the shop all day. One particular Chinese chap used to go absolutely bananas when one of his mates actually brushed against him while the Chinese bloke was reading the form. He didn't understand why he'd gone bananas at him for just sort of nudging him. Yeah. And basically, they count it as like bad luck if you touch them. He said the Chinese guy would go absolutely mental going, money gone, money gone, money gone. He goes, he says, so of course, he says, being youngsters and kind of annoying, he'd go in every lunchtime and pat him up back. And he'd turn around and go away, money gone, money gone. It's just cracking stuff. It really is. But again, this is the type of characters that you got in there. Reading some of these stories is just incredible. Did you ever, I suppose, being where you were, you did encounter many Chinese?
Well, funnily enough, we had a regular called Henry Chan, they called him. And he had a Chinese takeaway in Saltburn, and he was bad out the Saltburn Ladbrokes, and he used to go up to Lingdale, and I had a cashier in there called Dot. She'd worked for Bruffy, and we'd sort of kept her on up there. And I was in there one afternoon. This Henry comes in, and I mean, she was bolting on, Doc. She was probably 60 something when I took over up there, and very polite lady, never swore, never nothing, you know. And this Henry Chan walked in and she said, "Oh," she said, "I hate this little bastard." I said, "Oh, Dad, you know." She said, "Do you know?" She said, "He's always got a nose full of snot." And she said, "Every time he comes up to the counter, he's like that." I said, "No." She said, "Honestly, wait till he comes up with a bet." And sure enough, this Henry Chan comes up. Never uttered a word till he just shot his slip on the counter and a couple of 20s with it. And then next thing, she said, "Oh," you know, gives him his pink slip back, you know, and he's there waiting at the rest. She said, "I'm going to say something. And sure enough, he clicked a winner later that afternoon. He comes up and he wanted 300 and that anyway. Anyway, she counted it all out to him, really painstaking, you know. She going 320, 340, 360. She said, "There you go, buy a box of hankies."
Were it candle in the wind?
He just looked blank at her, you know. But she gathered all his money up and then just went, and off he went.
Horrible, isn't it? You know, some of the characters, you know, like piss drenched through and all sorts. I mean, I've seen it all myself, like you.
There was no question with him, honestly. I mean, we never went near his takeaway.
Can you imagine that dripping into curry sauce?
Oysters. I was going to say oyster sauce. He's making his own oysters.
I know, swinging around like a grandfather clock before it drops in.
Oh.
You love this show. You listeners, don't you? You love it. That's why you listen. Come on to another story then about another section of our communities, racing communities that came in the shop. The sort of Caribbeans, Africans, they were cracking, absolutely cracking, provided immense entertainment. And on this Betfair thread, this is the major one, provided thread, and credit to all of them that have provided these stories, because obviously it's timeless. Robert Crackerjack Agimbo, he's now deceased. He was 70 back in 2006, so it has been announced that he has deceased, so rest in peace, Mr. Agimbo. But here's a couple of stories.
Did he only ever come in at 5 to 5? That's how he got his nickname.
Crackerjack. It's fine. That's probably a good shout.
You got a flyer from the factory.
Yeah, that is. It's Crackerjack. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this is his character. So he basically pointed at the Jackson and Lowe wall sheet one day and said quite loudly, "This ass win this race." He says, so the manager said, "Stick your money where your mouth is, Robert." He says he pulled out a tenner, which was a big back bet then. And he says he had 10 to win, not a fiver each way. And the horse was called Balkanski. And it won at 50 to 1. A bullseye actually won.
Jeez.
Right? Yeah. He stood up prior to telling everybody. He said he had a dream. And he dreamt this horse would win today. And it actually won. So 3 weeks later, he came back in, and all the punters laughed at him, obviously, before the race, saying, "What you fucking on about, you fucking idiot." You know. So after that had won, 3 weeks later, he came back in, and he said he had another dream. So everybody in shop this time went silent. No more laughing at him. And he says, "Got a 16 to 1 shot here that'll absolutely bolt up." He says, "I've had a dream." After the race, the horse finished last. So everyone's having a go at him, and he says, "Are you white people stupid? As if I could dream a winner twice." It's just brilliant. These are characters back then. And I mean, this is another funny story to do with Robert Agimbo. This was against the clock. Robert Agimbo went early Saturday morning to Hackney Dogs in his Ford Corsair, John.
Oh, wow.
But when he got there, he got no money because he forgot it. He'd left it at home, right?
I bet it had a leopard skin steering wheel cover.
Like coming to America. So he came into the shop with this bloke ran with a daft grin on his face. And he said he had raced home to get his money in order to try and get back before the race. But in a mad rush, he actually snapped the gear stick off. Right? So basically, the kid says, "Never mind, Robert, you've always wanted an automatic." Again, this was a good story though. So he decided to back all Pat Henry's mounts that afternoon in singles, doubles, and trebles, and he got all 4 up, and he got a new car. These are characters. Absolutely, just is amazing.
This fella, isn't he?
Yeah, belter. It sounds by absolutely hilarious. Another character here, John. You must have had one of these in your shop. Heavy-handed Harry, right? So basically, takes fibre slips out at dispenser, writes one bet out.
Yeah.
All other slips are knackered because he presses so hard with pen, it goes through on lot. So he can't move a chair without hitting somebody else's fucking shins with it and bruising the cunt, right? Right, and he's the one that goes for a shit and then breaks the flush. Heavy-handed Harry. Yeah, have you had one of them, John?
I wouldn't say go for a shit and break the flush, but certainly fulfil the criteria of the other things. He also used to be well in with George Moore when Mickey Hammond was riding for him, and he got some of the worst information you've ever seen in your life from the George Moore stable. And he used to tell everybody when he came in the shop. And we used to love it because they'd all back it. Honest to God, I think he maybe drove twice all the time we had the shops. And it was some of the worst stuff you would ever imagine. I mean, they ran absolute stinkers. But because he was quite well spoken and that, and he used to come in his cavalry twirls and his barber, they all thought, well, straight from Midland, this fella, you know. And, oh dear. There was some money following him.
Brilliant for you, though, John.
Oh, superb.
Yeah. Have you ever had any one of these? He was called Damage, and he was from Manchester. He was the guy that chewed all the pens in half. He spat at TVs and basically tapped up every single punter that came in shop. Have you got out? Killen's a quid. Did you have any?
I had a lot of pen chewers and people that never had out, you know, but I mean, small villages, nobody ever lent anybody anything in betting shops. You know, it wasn't done because you know you'd never get it back, basically. You know, there was no subs.
No.
All they used to do, if they got wiped out, they'd go next door to the club and start phoning bets in on strap.
The bastards, aren't they?
There's somebody then, he'd have 3 or 4 bets and then he'd fuck off out and you think, well, that's him done. And next thing, he's on the phone, he's in the club next door. Oh, put us 20 on this, you know. If it wins, he's back in.
Absolutely.
If it gets beat, he's on the phone with another 20 for one.
Unreal.
Oh.
Incredibly unreal, this. There's another thing that I resonated to on this forum post where there was a manager. He felt there was a regular punter that came into his shop, a Greek restaurant owner. And he'd done his bollocks that afternoon, regular punter. And he said, can I have 60 quid on this? And I'll straighten you up like day after. Basically said, oh, I shouldn't do this, you know, but all right, because he was a good punter. But then area manager had come round day after. Straight at first thing in the morning, checking float. So it's 60 quid down. Where's 60 quid? He told the area manager the truth. He said, oh, I've let this Greek guy have this strap bet. I shouldn't have, but he's coming in before midday. So area manager goes, well, wait.
Yeah.
He had to go back with cashier, pretended they were making a coffee and that. Set at cashier, can you help me out here and lend me 60 quid?
Yeah.
Cashier's gone out and gone 60 quid. Get it to this. He said, you've got to get it to someone to make it look like it's a Greek that's coming in, you know, to fucking settle up the 60 quid. She get it to this old scruffy cunt who was an Irish fella.
He fucked up.
That'd have been a better story. No, actually come in, but like I think area manager were like looking gone out as if to say, that's not Greek, you know. Here's your 60.
To be sure, here's your 60. Oh, thanks, Stavros.
So it just reminds me of me, this. So this is the young naive, this is how I brought it up. So when in my first week of managing a betting office at 18, and it was my dad's shop, and so someone came in about lunchtime, and I always remember it, real confident fella. And he goes, are you Steve's son? I said, yeah. He said, oh, lovely that he's like families running shops. Oh, I'd love to see that. He says, your dad's a great bloke. He says, just one thing, he says, your dad sent me in, he says, for 100 quid to pay this bloke he owes in club. Right? So I'm thinking, Probably should have checked with my dad or whatever, but I didn't. I just took him. He was absolutely so convincing. And I just went. He says, yeah. He says, you know. Tell him Barry. It's Barry, so he knows Barry. So don't worry about it. He said, I'll go and settle £100 he owes somebody in club. I said, all right, get him £100. So I rang my dad up 2 hours later. I says, oh, Barry's settled you £100 fella you owed in club. Who's Barry? He said. I don't owe anybody £100. So that was lesson one in life as me as a very green 18-year-old, and I learnt quickly. So that just reminded me of that in a way. And I had to pay for that out of my wages. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Another one, this is a funny one. Long John Silver John. 50 betting slips in hand, ready for the first race, constantly puffing on woodbines. So named after throwing himself in front of a metro train and losing 3/4 of a leg. Clearly a happy chappy because now he's on the disability benefits. He's got more to spend on betting. Good old Long John Silver.
We don't know what to do now to get past the affordability checks, don't we?
Yeah. John, do you remember Green Shield stamp days?
Yes.
Right, so this is a good one. So one at cashiers took a bet off a guy in his payment of rolled up notes with some Green Shield stamps.
Yeah.
The cashier said, "Oh look, here's some Green Shield stamps." Just said it, get them back to him. Said, "Oh, you've left some Green Shield stamps in here." Next minute, she serves this next bloke in queue, and he's just stood there about 2 minutes after he's blocking queue. She says, "Oh, I've got your bet on. Can I help you?" She says, "Oh, well, you're getting Green Shield stamps out." The couple wanted some Green Shield stamps. Anyway, yeah, it's just some brilliant stories. Pikey Jim's quite a good one. So he's a race-by-race punter, but one day he decides to have 66 times 50p doubles, does Pikey Jim, through the card on an evening dogs meeting, John.
Jesus.
Right? So, anyway, amazingly, Jim is waiting for the staff to open the shop because, would you believe it, Pikey Jim had picked out 12 winning forecasts.
Fucking Jesus.
Right? And was confidently expecting to collect winnings of 43 grand.
Yeah.
However, instead of this expected windfall, poor Jim managed to cop a 9-month stretch. Right? So this is what Pikey Jim did. So basically, the settler that obviously gets in the morning, who picks them? How can you pick that many? You know, so couldn't believe someone picked every winner. So they investigated it, and it turns out that he had an accomplice who was sat in the toilet overnight in the bookies, to then fill the results in.
Jesus Christ.
Right, on another slip, and then reattach it because there was 2 staple marks to the slip. So he'd obviously undone one of the staples and put another staple to the new docket. And, you know...
Definitely.
Yeah. So he climbed out of an upstairs window, apparently, the accomplice. And again, a lesson here. Don't be greedy. You know, you don't need to win 4. Pikey Jim, if he'd have picked out, say, 4 or 3...
Yeah, they'd have swallowed it.
Yeah, they'd have just gone, well, you know...
600 quid, what can you do?
Yeah, 43,000 Pikey Jim.
Yeah, too much.
A massive mistake.
He was never getting it, was he?
No, not at all.
Palpable error.
Yeah. So another story for you, Dan. I just wondered, did you ever suffer any potential violent threats in your shop when you were running bookies?
Not exactly, because we were fairly strange fuckers for bookies. We had a baseball bat behind the counter, and
yeah.
We were both fairly mean fellas. I don't think, unless they'd come in with a gun, I don't think they'd fancied it too much. The only time things got really nasty, I don't know if you remember the Zenith Data Systems Cup.
Yes.
Well, unbelievably, Middlesbrough got to the final of this thing. Now, our shop didn't open on a Sunday, but the final was on a Sunday and was live in our club, which was just next to the betting shop. Well, in my wisdom, I decided to go to the club to watch the final. And of course, straight away, everybody in the club decided they wanted to bet on the final. I'm sort of the opinion, geez, I can't get a minute's fucking pace. So I thought, right, I'll show you, because, So They come up and a couple of lads, we want to back the Bury, I said, well, I'll have to ring up and get a price. I don't know what price they are now, so I reckon to go on me. They're 11 to 10. What? They're 11 to 10, that's what they're telling me, Fucking hell. All right, well, I've 40 quid for the hour, 20, 40, so on and so forth, And a couple more lads, I'm going to back the draw. What price is it? I'll have to find out, So plays off the phone again, comes back. It's 11 to 10. Oh, fucking jeez. It was 12 to 5, wasn't it? No, it's 11 to 10. I've just checked. Take the money again, And a few more lads. Price of Chelsea. For fuck's sake, I said, I'll go find out, Comes back in. Price of Chelsea is 11 to 10. So I'll be in all three. It's 11 to 10 anyway.
It's just incredible, isn't it? What you can actually do. I know.
I thought, well, you've disturbed and ruined my fucking afternoon. I thought I'm getting bloody paid for it,
No, the reason I said about like aggro to shop, because obviously there's a manager here, so he said he was a manager at mid to late 80s in Nottingham, and he was in his 20s. It was a crazy place, really a particularly nice area. A bit like where they sent Davis on one of his jobs that he hated, and ended up doing a chambermaid in Cornwall after that. Digressing, he was in a shop full of like mainly Irish, lot of drunks. On his first day in the job, he says someone took a swing at me because I took piss out of his accent, and he says there was one 80-year-old regular. He says like a real fucker he was. He says basically he says he used to come in there bloody waving a bloody revolver about and threaten to shoot everyone. No bullets in it, but you know what I mean. I'll fucking shoot you all, you bastards. So I mean, crazy times. And he said in his shop, he says he once caught the cleaner shagging a punter when he returned unexpectedly after closing up. He never saw her again after catching her in the act. Yeah, good, incredible days in betting shops. Another character for you here, John. Did you get many hard nuts coming in? Local hard nuts, like any bruisers?
There was a few bruisers up at Lindale, and you'd fight a bit shy over in there. There was one of them, Carl Frank. He always used to 20 or 30 on favourites, and he'd be in most of the afternoon. He used to get a bit edgy, if anything was going wrong. And when another little fella who was about 5'2" and the same width as his height, called Dickie Davis. not the world of sport presenter, but he was a similar type. He was always at the front end of the market and that. And there's this one afternoon, there was a jumps making at Leicester, and this Frank's house is clear coming to the last, and it fell, and Dickie Davis was just at the sea of get down you cunt, as Frank's fist connected with his jaw and knocked him clean off the stone.
You see, this is why I've asked. There's a good character here apparently back in the day, called Big Stewie. Right. And he was from Hartlepool.
Right.
He was a former pro boxer, fought Frank Bruno.
Oh, Jesus.
He was 6'2", 6'3", but that wide as well.
Yeah.
He actually was a Commonwealth title holder at cruiserweight, apparently. But he loved a drink and a big bet, very big bet. He loved a lumpy bet on a fav kind of guy.
Yeah.
So he was quite notorious in shops, and he were a bit of a cunt. It'd be like if it were 9 to 4, 5 to 2 on boards, he'd want threes. Yeah, and put threes down on slip when fucking weren't, because he tried to intimidate staff. But, a bit of a cunt. Yeah. So a bit like what you were saying there. So one day he says he fucking had his bollocks on this 4 to 5 shot, and he said this fucking punter stood next to him. Yeah. Like a fucking back winner, and we're fucking jumping up and down as he got chinned. And at the time, he got a big fucking hot steak pies on you. He just fucking grabbed hold of his head and whacked it straight in his mush. And fucking have that, you fucker. We're probably not selling the past very well here to a younger audience, but.
Sort of experiences are priceless, aren't they?
Jeez. It was just that poor kid that was cheering winner on, but just in wrong place at wrong time. Stood next to heavyweight boxer. who's had his bollocks on second. The thing is, you'd always get that though. I can remember a kid that used to come in my shop, John, and he used to have a right good few quid on, and got emotional, like we all do when we have a few quid on. And this fucking 50p merchant had backed his 33s perk one day. Big punter is also come down at last. And he goes up to this kid that's had 50p on. He goes, "You fucking cheering that? And I fucking give you your fucking winnings, you fucking weasel." He's cheering it on like a fucker. I think he was ready to lamp him. But yeah, it was such emotion. But honestly, what great days! So many characters. We've said it before, from people on fruit machines that think there's a way to win. Oh, you can if you tap yes no this way, you can make it come in. You have to tap it softly, not hard. Don't tap it hard. Tap it soft. Just tremendous days. Different walks of life. You'd have Greek restaurant owners that'd have to buy and sell 6 restaurants over time. To keep the punting going. And this is what it's all about. I mean, I can always remember somebody in Sheffield. I'm not going to name him because it's not fair, because obviously people might be from Sheffield and know us, but he owned a massive sort of pizza enterprise in Sheffield. Yeah, he really did. I'm talking about £1,000 win, £1,500 win. He could do 10 in an afternoon, like easily. He were crackers. The pizza enterprise, if he'd have just not bet, honestly, the fellow would be in Monaco by now. He just did. He did absolutely fortunes, and they just love it. Don't they? They can't help it. It's like, like you beat casino where they get excited, especially Chinese. Picture, blackjack picture. Oh, picture. They do. But this is atmosphere and what it used to be and what it used to mean. And I think this is why us, the pod, we've connected with that on affordability and the terrible times that people are suffering now because of this. And it never should be the case. You should be free to do whatever you want with your money, whether if you want to go to Ibiza or Barbados, fantastic. If you want to spend it on Prada handbags for your missus, fantastic. If you want to have $2,000 on a fav. I mean, look, even CJ. Remember CJ? She had £1,000 on the Henderson horse to beat Emergen in Ascot. Yeah. And got affordability checked. Yeah. Because it were a usual stake. But she was that strong that Henderson's would beat it. She thought, fuck it, I'm going to have £1,000 on. Why not? Why can't I? Yeah. Free country. And then got account suspended. I mean,
you found it's not such a free country.
No. So this is why we did this show, because I think you go back to Betfair Forum days, John. The characters. I mean, my favourite, obviously, PP King, the wind-up account, Big Nose Dave. Ace for Alan Charnier, Geneva. They were just funny as. I mean, you yourself on there as John Joe, yourself, there were Rue. It was just, the early days were just so funny. And yeah, it's such a shame now that we're at this place where I don't know where we're at really in terms of the future of this.
It's very hard to seek any of that sort of humour out now, isn't it? And people that's just up for a laugh all the time, and it's definitely not the same. Even when you go racing,
So like you said, that thread was done in 2006, which is 17 years ago. Yeah. And we've had a right good old laugh at the different characters. And I'm not saying all are like lovely characters. That doesn't matter. It's just funny stories, funny to hear. And this is why we did this show. And I thought it worked quite well. So, on that note, John, have you anything else to add this week?
No, just tell everybody to get the tanks ready for Ascot because it's serious.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. So coming on to Ascot, we're planning on 3 shows, which will be Monday, Wednesday and Friday. The Monday and Wednesday shows will be Patreon first on the evenings. That's Monday evening and the Wednesday evening. That'll be available from around 8 p.m. on those days. And then it'll be free to air on the morning after for everyone else. And the Friday show will be as normal, free on the evening, as we promised we would do. And we wouldn't take any content away from our regular listeners. So we're very confident of a big Ascot. The trackers are full. We're all absolutely busting for the entries. It's something to look forward to. So hope you enjoyed it tonight. Me and John have. Bye for now.